Seriously, one of the most important things when it comes to hiring new drivers for your box truck business is just clear, concise communication in the beginning. It's to protect you, it's to protect your driver, and it's just to alleviate any frustration down the road. In this consultation with a fellow box truck business owner, I tell him all the tricks and the secrets that I have on how to hire drivers and how to be successful when trying to grow your box truck business. If you want to schedule a consultation with me, the link is in the description below. It's only $70 for 1 hour.
Don't wanna sleep in, cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and all the shit you don't do.
Hey, this is Zach Pasquarello. Is now still a good time to talk? So what you got going on? Yeah, I started with a box truck, and then I just recently, back in February, I bought a semi-truck. I'm just taking notes here real quick. Are you the driver right now? Okay, so you have one box truck right now, you're the driver, but you're looking to get another truck and hire a driver to run the second truck, or do you want to hire two drivers and do you want to stop driving altogether? Yeah, so as you know, driving your truck is completely different from trying to hire somebody else to drive another truck. So who's gonna dispatch your second truck? I recommend, if you've been doing it up until this point for yourself, you're probably pretty good at it at this point. I would probably keep doing it if I were you. I wouldn't hire, because you're gonna pay 10% for a box truck dispatcher. So if you're making, I don't know how much revenue you're making right now, but you're probably making $4,000 or $5,000 a week. Think about it, that's $400, $500 a week that you'd be spending, and you can just keep that money. So fuel cards, that's another thing. It's like having someone else do the day-to-day operations just makes it so much more complex. Like if I'm out there driving, if you're out there driving, it's so easy. Like I'm just gonna use my credit card, or I'm gonna, like, you know how to use the apps for the fuel cards, but like as soon as you hire a driver, it's just so difficult to manage them and to make sure that, because it's, as you know, who are you using right now for your fuel card? So I kind of had a similar mindset for you. Like I wanted to keep it as simple as possible. And it sounds like you're not even using a fuel card company right now. You're just using like a debit card or a credit card to pay for fuel at the pump. Yeah. So are you getting at least 2% cash back with your credit card? Okay. So if you're paying $5 for a gallon, then you're getting 10 cents back for every $5 you spend. Which, think about 10 cents off per gallon. That's not too bad. That's pretty standard, and especially having the freedom to be able to go wherever you want. But at the same time, like, you don't necessarily want to give a new driver just like access to your credit card, and you also want to have some control over how you're spending your money. So I definitely recommend you at least get a fuel card. Yeah, exactly. So I was using Fuelman in the beginning because it was super simple, but I was spending like the same amount of money that was being advertised at the pumps, and like I wasn't getting any sort of discounts. I thought that was cool, but like after doing that for a year, I kind of realized that I could probably save a lot more money by using like a specific fuel card. So like I know Love's and Pilot, like you can get a fuel card with them and they'll give you 16 cents off per gallon. Pretty much any, like, BP and Sunoco and Exxon, like they all have their specific fuel cards. But what I do and what I actually recommend is, I don't know, who are you using to factor your loads right now? Do they have a fuel card associated with them? Yeah, so if you're factoring your loads with OTR, I would ask them if they have like a fuel program, because I know RTS, they partner with Pilot, and TAFs, they partner with, I think, TA. But basically, like if you pump a certain number of gallons through your factoring company, like they'll give you 0.5% off on your factoring rate, which doesn't sound like a lot, but like that ends up being like thousands of dollars throughout the course of the year. And as you get more drivers, it really starts to add up. So I would look into, first of all, I would use the fuel card, whoever your factoring company is, whoever they partner with. So that's one option. That's the number one option that I recommend. And if not them, then I would probably just get a fuel card at Love's or Pilot, Flying J. I don't know, whatever gas station you prefer to go to the most. I would just get a fuel card, specifically with them. Because like I just signed up with Love's and I got 16 cents off per gallon, which I know Love's and Pilot, Flying J, like they have more expensive gas than the other small local guys. Just being able to go to the trucks, like just being able to know that, okay, at this rest stop there's probably going to be a Love's or a Pilot, Flying J, just because they're everywhere. That's nice to have that consistency. And with your driver, you want to keep it simple, like as simple as possible. So like if you're able to tell your driver, like, hey, you can only fuel up at Love's, like that's your only option. That's really simple. So yeah, you're gonna save 16 cents per gallon. Get a card at Love's or Pilot, or number one option would be go through your factoring company and find out who they fuel with. Yeah, I mean, every company is different, but there's probably going to be some type of online portal that you can log into, and it's either going to be like a Net7 account where you pay it off once a week, or you might have to preload the card. You might have to put like a couple $1,000s on it every single week, and then you kind of use the money as you go through the week. But yeah, I guarantee you there's some type of online portal where you can log in, you can see the transactions, you can see where your driver got fuel, how much he got fuel for, how much he paid for it. But it's really going to come down to probably trial and error for you. Like, you might start out with loves and then realize like you don't like them too much, and then you just got to kind of figure it out. But yeah, definitely just try to keep it simple and be consistent. Like, try to pick one card and try to use one card, and just really, like, when it comes down to it, you're going to go from being a box truck driver to like a manager, pretty much. Like, your number one job at this point is now just going to be to manage these drivers and to teach him how to use the fuel card and make sure he's using it properly, and pay attention to the little hidden fees, because like, if you get a specific card and he goes out of network, they might hit you with like $5, $10, $15 extra fee every time he goes there. So you really got to stay on top of it. And then you asked me about the keys. I pretty much hired my first driver, and I just said like, hey man, the truck is yours. I made a copy of the key. I have a copy of the key. I hid a key underneath the truck just in case he got locked out, and then I just gave him the third copy of the key. And he actually parked the truck at his house on the weekend. So I don't know if you're in a big city or what parking's like. Number one option, as long as your driver has a safe place to park the truck, I would try to convince him to park the truck at his place. But if he doesn't have a safe place, if you're worried about it getting vandalized, then you might have to pay $50 or $100 a month to have it be parked in someone else's parking lot. But I just gave my driver the keys and he parked it at his house. Or the other option, maybe you can get some type of lockbox, put it on the outside of the truck, and just have like a combo for the lockbox and have the key in there. And then paying your driver as a 1099. So you have a couple options. Technically the right thing to do, they would be an employee. So there's you've got independent contractors and you have employees, like two different types of people. They both work for you, but technically an independent contractor is someone who you can't, like, you don't really tell that person what to do. Like, think about it, if you just like hire someone to like come and like fix your basement or like fix your refrigerator. Like, you're hiring a contractor to come and fix your house. Like, you're not going to tell that person like, okay, show up at 8 a.m. on Monday. Here's your tools, here's your uniform, like, be at my house 8 a.m. Monday and you're going to do this and that. Like, no, like, you tell the contractor, okay, yeah, just do whatever you do, just fix my house. Like, you're the independent contractor. I'm not really telling you what to do. Whereas an employee, that's someone who, like, okay, you're going to hand keys, a vehicle, equipment, you're going to tell them where to be, when to be, like, you're kind of telling the employee like how to operate. So from that viewpoint, technically, if you hire a driver, they should be an employee. They should not be an independent contractor, because they don't have their own truck, they don't have their own equipment. You're telling them where to drive and when to drive, so technically they would be your employee. But with all that being said, I see it happen all the time. People incorrectly hire full-time employees and pay them as a 1099 contractor. There's a lot of benefits for you. Like, one, you won't have to have workers' compensation insurance. You won't have to pay payroll tax, which is 7%. So if you pay someone $1,000, you would be responsible for paying an additional 7%. So an additional $70 on top of that $1,000 for what's called payroll tax. Like, if you work at Amazon or Walmart, like, they're paying 7% of your wages. Whereas, if you're an independent contractor, you have to pay that extra 7%. And then workers' compensation for truck drivers is like 5%. And then on top of all that, like, if things don't go very well and you end up like, maybe you lose a contract or you lose a truck and you have to fire them, you won't be responsible for paying unemployment compensation for, however long after you part ways. With all that being said, technically hiring a driver as an independent contractor is not technically the right thing to do. So if I were you, I would maybe do it for like a couple months, maybe 2 to 3 months, until your driver is solidified and you're happy, he's going to stay, you like him, it's going to work out. And then you can hire him on as a full-time employee, start running payroll. You can use ADP or Gusto, and they'll handle all the payroll for you. They'll file your W-2, they'll file your payroll taxes for you. And as far as paying an independent contractor, it's incredibly simple. You literally just write a check from your business checking account and hand it to him, and like, that's how you pay him. And then you just categorize that as, independent contractor or labor or driving, and then at the end of the year you give them a 1099. So that's very important. If you hire an independent contractor, you have to give them a 1099 at the end of the year, and that tells the IRS, hey, I paid Joe Smith $10,000 in 2022 for working on my business. In order to hire on an independent contractor, I always highly recommend you get a W-9. A W-9 is an IRS form. You can find it on the IRS website. Just go to Google and type in IRS form W-9 and just require your independent contractor to sign that document. All it is it just asks for his name, his address, his social security number, and his signature. And with that document, you'll be able to very simply then generate a 1099 at the end of the year. So you have a driver working in 2022 all year. In January of 23, that's when you give out the 1099 for work completed in the year prior in 2022. Yeah, you can do it through QuickBooks, you can do it through a million different websites like 1099 processing websites, or you can hire an accountant to do it for you. Like my CPA charges $10 per 1099 that he files. So like anyone can do it for you. It's a very basic form, and then you submit it to the IRS, and then you mail it to your contractor. He uses it to file his taxes. And it's not only the driver. So if you hire a dispatcher, or if you hire some random mechanic, like anybody in your business that you're paying, you need to give a 1099 to, unless that person is a corporation. So like if you're going to like a big auto shop, a big mechanic that's like an established business and is either an S corporation or a C corporation, you don't need to give that person a 1099. And the last little fact about 1099s is there's a $600 threshold. So if you pay somebody $599, you don't technically need to give them a 1099. So you only give people a 1099 if two things are true. You paid them $600 or more, and they're not like a corporation, an S corporation or a C corporation. And if you're ever confused about a business, whether or not they get a 1099, just very simply say, hey, can you please send me your W-9? And they'll send you a W-9, and then you'll have all the information you need. And not only that, but also make sure you have some sort of written agreement, some sort of written contract. You can go to rocketlawyer.com and find like an independent contractor agreement. Rocketlawyer.com, you'll pay like $30 for an independent contractor agreement. Just try to include everything in writing that you possibly can, like your pay structure, how are you going to pay this guy, what happens in the event that he crashes the truck, termination, like, hey, at any point this job can be terminated, without notice or with 2 weeks notice. You can make sure you put in writing, like you require that he gives you 2 weeks notice, before he quits. Another thing you can throw in there, and I'm just kind of spitballing here, but you can throw in like, your company reserves the right to withhold his final paycheck pending any damage or destruction to company property. So like, he just needs to return the truck in order to get that final paycheck. Just seriously, just like make a list of just anything that you think could possibly go wrong with hiring somebody, and just make sure it's in writing. And it's to protect you, and it's to protect your independent contractor, and it's just to alleviate any frustration and confusion down the road. Like if it's in writing, you have him sign the document. Payment terms. Are you going to pay this guy once a week, once every 2 weeks, every Friday, every Monday? How are you going to pay this guy? Are you going to require that he wear a uniform? Are you going to require that, he answer your phone calls, or are you going to give him a work phone? Just try to think of anything that could possibly go wrong, and just make sure it's included in that independent contractor document. Just have him sign it. That way it just covers you and your business. Yeah, I do every week. So for example, let's see. So today's April 26th. So I take last week. So last week was April 18th through April 22nd, and he will get paid this Friday for work done last week. And now how you pay your driver is kind of a difficult thing to come up with. It depends if you're going to do over the road or local. Do you know which one are you going to do? Amazon? You're going to do in-home appliance installation? What do you plan on doing? Do you already have a contract for local deliveries, or what are you doing locally? Me personally, I think the best way to pay your driver is percent of revenue. Yeah, because especially if you're doing local stuff, like per mile gets kind of difficult, because what do? Do you do ELD miles? Do you do loaded miles? Do you do deadhead plus loaded miles? It gets really complicated when you start paying per mile, especially with something like a box truck, because as you know, there might be a lot of deadhead, there might be a lot of additional miles. But like for me, I have a local contract where my guy does like 15 deliveries for Home Depot and Lowe's, and he's driving like 200 miles a day, and the company is making $550 a day, and I pay him 30% revenue. So it ends up being $165 per day for like 10 hours of work. Pretty good job, making $16.50 an hour. And he just drives, he drives for 4 or 5 hours, and he spends the rest of the time taking packages off the back of the truck. But 30% revenue seems to be kind of a good spot. If you have like an inexperienced driver, maybe you could probably go as low as 25%. It wouldn't go much lower than 22, 25% revenue, and I would not go any higher than 30% revenue. But the one thing that I always try to touch on is that just make sure you're running your cost per mile, and just factor in how much it's going to cost to pay your driver, and just you'll be able to see on paper how much profit you're going to make at the end of the week. And if you don't know how to track your cost per mile, it's pretty simple. Just take the total cost and divide that by the total miles you're driving, and you'll find out your cost per mile, and then just kind of go from there. Just don't make any impulse decisions. Just make very calculated analytical decisions based on the numbers, and you'll never go wrong. Are you running your cost per mile right now? Do you know how much it costs you to operate your truck? Yeah, that would definitely be something I would recommend looking into. And it's very simple. You just take the number of miles you're driving, how much your truck costs per month, how much you pay for insurance, how much you're going to pay your driver, how much you pay for maintenance, tolls, just every cost associated with your truck, and then you figure out how many miles you're driving. So if you're spending $2,000, if you're spending $1,000 a week on your truck and you're driving 2,000 miles, then $1,000 divided by 2,000 miles is 50 cents per mile. So it costs you as a business owner 50 cents every time your truck goes a mile. So with that information, okay, I got to make $1 a mile if I want to make 50 cents a mile. That's just kind of how you can leverage the numbers and the data to make informed decisions based on how much to pay your driver or how much to take loads for. Yeah, so you take the total cost of operating your truck, and I usually do it for 1 week. So if you're paying $1,000 a month for your truck, just divide that by 4. So you get you're paying $250 per week on your truck. So I look at, that's perfect. Yeah, $1,100 for the truck, $2,000 for insurance. So you're looking at $3,000. Yeah, $3,000 a month. So essentially $750 per week. And then you got to look at how much you're paying for fuel. So fuel, truck, insurance, maintenance, and how much you pay your driver. Add up all 5 of those things, and then just divide that by the number of miles you drive every week, and then that's your cost per mile. Okay, so for the QuickBooks thing, the biggest thing with that is just try to keep up with it so you can actually connect your bank account directly to your QuickBooks account. So all your transactions will just pull in automatically. Just like if you open up your app on your phone from your bank or your credit card, you can like scroll through the list of transactions. You can see like $50 at Lowe's,